la la.
Yo. Evening, gamers. Covert Go Chill Special Edition. And it had to be a live stream tonight. It had to be. There was no other way to do it right. Can you believe what is happening? I was blown away. They actually did it. The crazy maniacs did it. Right? Like, I don't know. It's been so long. When was the last time this even happened? Golos? Was it Golos? I think it's something like Golos. Does that sound right? We'll get you guys on screen. About you too. Very much about you guys as well. Because this ain't so much a like video as it is conversation. A lot of you already know what's happened because it's been a while since it happened, you know? It's been quite a while since it happened. But you can use the command !BANS or check out the pinned comment. And they did it. Let me show you what got banned in Commander today. The bird got banned. This little baby got banned. I don't know about you. I just always thought Mana Crypt was going to be there. This card Hero got banned. Dang. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And this got banned. This goblin. Now, I'm not opposed to banning goblins. I kind of think they should all die. If that makes sense. But there you go. There you have it. The Fallen. F's in the chat. Pour one out. Let's start there. These are the now banned cards in Commander. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I haven't been able to access Twitter for weeks. because I'm just locked out of my account by two-factor authentication. I don't know if anybody's ever had this, but when I try to use, I use an app on my phone called Authy, and when I try to use it to log into Twitter, it doesn't work. Just hasn't worked for a few weeks now. So I'm still not on Twitter. I've had to hear from other people who are on Twitter that it is crazy out there, that people are absolutely going nuts. Why did they do it? I've become so used to like a complacency around Commander, though, where the answer to everything is rule 0. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. I mean, look at you guys. You guys are already going off here tonight, and I don't know if I should like give my thoughts and opinions now, or if we should turn over to the people. I guess I should say a little bit. I'll say a little bit about this. So I make Commander content for a living. The reason I'm just getting online to talk about this now is because I spent all day filming Commander. All day filming Commander at the studio today. Just finished some games. And you might be asking yourself, you know, how much of your content, CGB, is now invalid because you played these staple format cards. And how many do you own? Let's start with how many I own. Let's start with that. Is it too soon? This is my Commander Masters binder. Is it too soon, guys? I own a complete set of Commander Masters. The lead card for this set is Jeweled Lotus. I have the regular frame. I have the textured foil. And I got the one that's in between. The textured foil's not here at the desk. Let me show you this one. Got that one. The autofocus will get off my dang face. Yep, F's in the chat there. Double Masters, one of the leading cards. One of the cards they used to sell that set. Dockside Extortionist. I have them all. I have the regular foil one. I have the edge foil one. I have the full art foil one. I've got them all. Yep. Mana Crypt. Mana Crypt I was a little careful on. And by that I mean I opened one in my first ever Double Masters pack, which was the first pack of Magic cards I'd opened in a long time, and I just cracked a foil Mana Crypt. I still got that one, and I have the one from Special Guests, like the most common Special Guest Mana Crypt. I owned that. So took some hits there. Yep, took some hits there. I definitely, both my personal collection and my store collection for the show took some hits today. But you might ask yourself, how much of my content that I've been working on for months, some of which is months ahead, was damaged by this ban? The answer is none. The answer is actually none. I realized a few months ago, it was earlier this year, I just did not enjoy games or deck building with those cards. And I stopped using them. And I didn't sell them. Maybe I should have. But I stopped using them. And am I poorer today than yesterday? If I wasn't going to sell them anyway, and I'm not going to sell them now, nothing's really dramatically changed, except the more I think about it, the more I'm less likely to have Rule 0 conversations about Mana Crypt anymore. And the less likely I am to play my pre-con dinosaur deck and get stomped by turn 1 Rhystic Study from a Mana Crypt or something. So I feel really bad about the money. And I feel really bad about anybody who was part of a transaction involving these cards in the last week. That's horrible. And I'm sure it still stings if it's been a few months, honestly. And before I'm off the subject, I talk about coolstuffinc.com a lot. They have a 15-day return policy if your card gets banned. If any of you did purchase these cards from Cool Stuff Inc., promo code CGB5, you have 15 days to get a gift card for the entire price of your purchase on those cards. So make sure you try to do that. I bought a jeweled 2 weeks ago. You might be right on the deadline, so you might want to give it a shot. I just bought a new version of Crypt. Hopefully you're working with Cool Stuff or another vendor who can do a return for you. That should be an option in some of them. But anyway, so where I stand, this hasn't affected my content. It doesn't affect my wallet. It affects my in theory wallet. You know, what I thought my card in my binder was worth, but I wasn't going to sell it. So it didn't really change my wallet. I mean, aside from the bad feels for everybody who bought these cards in recent times and didn't get to play them very much, I think it's a good thing. I think it honestly should have happened a long time ago. I think the best thing about, and this doesn't apply to Nadu. Nadu was a mistake. Everybody acknowledged that. So get that out of here. I'm down with that. Mana Crypt has been around way too long. I feel like they should have banned it a long time ago. I feel like they've drawn a line in the sand on Soul Ring, and I think that's fine, but I don't think Mana Crypt should have been allowed to go this far, personally. I think there would have been a lot less pain for a lot of people if Mana Crypt didn't get this far. I think that Dockside Extortionist and Jeweled Lotus bans are good. Because I don't want to get myself in trouble. I'm going to say what I really think. Wizards has figured out for years, making Magic cards, how to get money out of their player base. That's not a bad thing. That's business. It's a product. But there does seem to be something egregious about going into a fan-created format, printing cards specifically for that format that are so incredibly broken that it feels like people playing that format have to have them to compete in that format. And a lot of people just got around it with the two great banes of the WotC Money Machine's existence, proxies and Rule Zero. And I don't think Rule Zero actually is a bane. I think I'm being a little extremist here. But I will say that it was kind of crazy that cards like Hull Breacher, Dockside Extortionist, Jeweled Lotus got made. I think the format is better if cards like that are not made. And I think that this does, at least in a way, maybe it's a little overdue, but in a way, I do feel like it sends a message that we're not going to tolerate just printing $100 plus mega staples that should be in every deck in your Commander Masters and your Commander, you know, whatever your next Commander set is. And that we're not just going to take that in the long term. I do wish it had happened sooner, because it sucks that it went on this long. A lot of people did get the impression that these cards would not be banned and therefore purchased them. And that's too bad. So that's where I stand. I feel the financial pain of people who took the hit. I'm one too. But I learned a while ago that Commander as a format is more fun without these cards. And I think that it took too long, but it wasn't so long that we're not saying we did something. I think this is not a bad thing. I think that this, in the end, is a good thing. It just sucks that it had to come after so much money was spent. That's where I'm at. Faster would have been better, but at least we're here. And I hope that Wizards can learn to make cards that are great in Commander, not insanely busted, must be banned in Commander, and using that as a way to sell their packs. I think that great is enough. I think Commander players love Magic and will continue to buy product. I don't think we need a Jeweled Lotus to buy Commander Masters. Does that make sense? That's where I'm at. That's how I feel. And I think that this could be helpful in the long run. All right, I'm going to open it up to you guys a bit. Thank you very much, Photon Bread, for being a member for 2 months. I'm going to read some questions and comments, and let's talk about it. Let's get to it. I'm going to move this over here so I can see what you guys have to say more clearly. Everyone must understand that those bans aren't made by WotC. They are made by the Commander Committee. Yep. A point many people do understand, but worth a mention is that this is not a format that is managed by WotC, and they don't always move in lockstep together, the Commander Rules Committee and WotC, and it's the only Magic format that has wide play that is not managed by WotC. And I think in the end that can be a good thing. Will they ban Nadu and Brawl? I don't think so. I don't think that they intend to ban things in Brawl because they're banned in Commander. I think that's a common misconception. I don't think that these bans will carry over to Brawl anytime soon. Happy to see high cost cards disappearing from the meta. Makes it easier to get into competitive EDH. Competitive EDH was already really proxy friendly, but there were definitely tournaments, especially anything sanctioned by Wizards, had to be no proxies allowed. The cost is a big deal. They banned 3 pieces of expensive fast mana, and there is definitely the issue of the game looking prohibitively expensive when these are the poster childs for our most played format. I don't think that alone can carry a ban. So, how do I feel about those expensive cards getting banned? I think, honestly, they wouldn't have been that expensive if this had been kind of taken care of sooner. That's, in my opinion, if this had been taken care of sooner, we wouldn't see these kind of prices and all these printings, these crazy printings. But better late than never, I think. I still think that's true. And it is saying something to ban such expensive cards. I think they are saying that this is not going to be, at least in their minds, like a pay-to-win format, and they don't want any new players to get the impression that it's a pay-to-play format either. And the format was getting to a point where it was so fast that if you didn't understand Rule Zero and you were a new player, you could literally lose without casting anything to these cards. Now, there's a lot more cards that could be banned under that same approach, but I think that that's part of the logic here, is that these cards aren't an equal playing field, and while not everything in Magic will ever be fair, money will always be a part, these cards were like the poster childs for that uneven playing field, right? So I think that that had a lot to do with it. I think it did. Honestly, I think the Commander Committee either needs to be more vocal or just have more than like 5 people. Well, that's... everybody gets an opinion. I'm sure that the Commander Rules Committee is doing what they feel is right with what they have. And they're the ones who ultimately make that decision. So, you're like, we can all have opinions on what we think they should do. I will caution you as an outside voice looking in, we don't always understand why they do things the way they do. And it's very hard to do that without spending any time inside or in a very similar role. Thank you very much to the subs, Lee Rocks and Maximus Wheat. Why does WotC follow the rules committee in the first place? Why not hire and manage their own format? Because I think that, honestly, I think if they did that, I think it would go against the spirit of Commander. I think WotC is practiced at creating balanced formats or trying to create balanced formats for competitive play and selling cards. And I think the idea that a rules committee helps manage the format from outside WotC is actually a good thing when it comes to a casual format. I actually think that this is an important part of Commander's success, that it wasn't all left in WotC's hands, because it was developed outside of WotC and it continues to exist outside of WotC and be managed outside of WotC. I think that's actually a positive. I think they've shown that Magic can be bigger than their own company, which isn't a terrible thing either. I think for people who love Magic, that's a good thing, in my opinion. Why do you think they waited 20 years to ban Crypt? What changed? I know. That is a weird one to me. And I think that if you ask people, I don't know this, but I think if you ask people at the rules committee about this, I think several times over the year they wanted to ban Crypt, but didn't feel like they could because of the price. And I think that we just reached a point where they decided that they weren't going to let the price stop them any longer. And that's interesting, right? Like, what does that really mean for the future of the format? It means you actually have to be careful what you invest in. You really do. If any card is too powerful, so powerful as to command a $100 price tag, you're actually going to have to think about that card's future in the format. And this is what it used to be like being a standard player. This is what it used to be like being still is what it's like being a modern player. Like, this is just something that Commander players, I don't think we've kind of gotten used to not facing. So it hits so hard when it happens. Isn't it that what you can play with Crypt has gotten better as well? Obviously that's true. 100%. Absolutely. The things you can play with Crypt, any place there's been power creep, the things you can play with Jeweled Lotus, Crypt, and Dockside have gotten better. So you can look at those as the most powerful versions of the effect, as the thing that they wanted to get out of the game, the thing that makes the game too fast. But you can apply that as an argument against so many cards that overall it's kind of a flat argument, but it does hit the extreme power spikes the hardest. So that is probably a point in favor of banning them. The fact that power leveling of cards in general has gone up. Could the One Ring be next? I don't think the One Ring is busted in Commander. I think it's a good card in Commander. I think it's a fun card in Commander. And I don't see the One Ring being banned in this way. I just don't think so. I think in terms of busted in Commander, the One Ring is probably in about an A tier, but maybe like an A minus tier, not an A plus, not an S tier. I don't think that's correct. Dockside was banned because of Yarga, Eater of All. I doubt it. Any thoughts on Thassa's Oracle being banned? I'm surprised that card is still in the format, but it's clear. I think there's a chance Thassa's gets banned if this new approach is to be taken seriously. But I think that they knew that they had to start with fast mana. That fast mana enables all the ways that games can end too quickly and unclimactically. So, and that it can do that at every level of play, whereas Thassa's Oracle and win the game on the spot stuff usually only exists in competitive play. So I think they knew they had to start with the absolutely fastest possible mana, and I think they found it. I think the three cards that got banned unexpectedly today were the three biggest culprits of just free mana run amok. Mystic Study and Smothering Tithe. You can always pay. You know that, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Rhystic Study got it someday, but I love Rhystic Study and I hope it doesn't go away. I like that there are cards that take advantage of all the action that happens at a table like that and just scale so incredibly well in a multiplayer format that they're that good. I kind of love it. CGB dodging questions for sure. No, there's just more questions than I can say, but you're welcome to give me an example. Teferi's Protection is a staple, but is not oppressive. I mean, Teferi's Protection, though, is another one of those cards that can be in every deck that I also realized if you take out of some decks is more fun. Like tonight's game didn't have any Teferi's Protection. Honestly, love the Nadu ban. It's boring to play against. It is. Nadu, I think we agree, had to go, especially just for like the story coming out that it was kind of got here because of Commander players and that they were trying to push it for Commander and ended up absolutely breaking it with like you can't have, like, Nadu seems like a great card in Miss Bumbleflower, but I have a Lightning Greaves in Miss Bumbleflower, so if I put the two in the deck together, I might end up in a non-deterministic loop and everybody might hate me. I might just win for having these cards in there. I don't know, man. Oh, man. But yeah, I get that. Why not Mana Vault? Mana Vault's not that good. Mana Vault's basically a ritual. 1 mana on the turn you cast it, only colorless mana, which doesn't cast most of the spells in your deck. Then you tap it for 3. It's like a ritual. You have 5 mana on turn 2, but it doesn't like regenerate. You can't resurrect it out of the graveyard like you can a Jeweled Lotus. And it then pings you. It's got downsides. It's not that good. It's not nearly as good as Jeweled Lotus. Do you think this is going their precedent to justify banning most fast mana in the future? I think that they'll ban egregious fast mana. Like, I don't think Mox Diamond or Chrome Mox are going anywhere anytime soon. Those have downsides as well, and if you're in formats that are all turbo all the time, yeah, you can abuse those cards. But there is something about the density, right? If you had a hand with one of those 3 cards in it, and nobody else at the table had one of those 3 cards that got banned, you're so far ahead in a high-powered game of Commander just by nature that you drew it and they didn't, right? And reducing the density just makes that less likely to happen. There will still be, they mention in the article that powerful starts will still happen, but they want to tone it down, and I think that's fair. Ancient Tomb ? Ancient Tomb has a big downside too. It's a very good card. You can put it in almost every deck. It is harder to play cards like Mana Vault and Ancient Tomb in the parts of the format that aren't using combos to kill. Because if you aren't relying on a combo to kill, if you actually have to take out the table in a way without an I win the game combo like Thassa's Oracle or Underworld Breach lines, the damage actually matters. The rest of the table can check you by counterattacking you if combat matters. And because of that, I think that those cards aren't nearly as good as what was banned. Yeah, I really don't think they need to ban every piece of fast mana. There's something about the Commander brain that I've definitely noticed, which is the Commander brain, when it sees something, let's say that your Commander has an ETB that is a good ETB. The Commander brain wants to double it with Panharmonicons and blink it 100 times, and they will put in every card that does that, even when they like to an absurd point. So now you guys see fast mana getting banned. You hear fast mana is a problem. Now you guys are going to apply Commander brain, which is, well, then all fast mana is the same. It all must be banned. All of it banned. Like, that's not how it works. Like, the best version of the effect is an important benchmark to pay attention to. The best version of the effect sets the bar for how well this can go. It doesn't mean that fast mana itself is broken. It means the best fast mana is broken. Why do some people want Aeona back? No idea. Oh my gosh. How do you tell Ben that he isn't allowed to Mana Crypt Soul Ring on turn 1? Well, poor Ben. He'll be okay. I think he actually won't mind. I'm actually trying to think of how many Mana Crypts, Jeweled Lotus, and Dockside the crew bought. A good number of what the crew played, especially while we were getting ourselves kind of together for content, was proxied. Ban Cyclonic Rift. Yeah, the 7 mana board affecting card needs to be banned. You might be taking it a little too far. I feel like popularizing more mana rocks of CMC3 would help smooth things out a little. I don't think that is ever going to happen, because I think that the 3-mana rock is kind of outdated, but there's still plenty of 2-mana rocks, and I think that casual commanders benchmark, and especially like precon and precon upgraded gaming, will always be like 2-mana rock. You know, good straightforward rampant growth, baby. I think that's okay. I think the real reason Dockside was banned, if you go to EDH Rec, Dockside is included in 84% of decks that contain red. I don't think that's true at all. Fact check. 84% of decks that contain red, huh? You guys want a fact check? Gonna do some live fact check. %'s a lot. God, a lot of decks are gonna need to be updated, baby. Yeah, they already got them. 16%. It's not that much. That's what I thought. Let's go to cards. Let's go to top cards. Let's go by color. Let's go red. So here's the top cards in Commander. In 33% of decks is Blasphemous Act. Where's Dockside? Dockside's over here. So Dockside isn't even the most popular red card in Commander. And Mountain, it's 100% of red decks. Now we're just making up numbers. So here's the thing. You guys are saying like of decks it could be in. That would all be the same. If it were of all decks, I'm pretty sure this number is all the decks on the site, because this is all the same number. So if that's true, then if we changed it, the number would be the same, right? So if we go to white, see the different number? See how that number is different? So that's taking into account decks it could be in, right? Yep, that's a different number right there. So it's not like this would be the same number for each of these if it were looking at decks the way you think that it's looking. So this is saying 23% of the decks it's legal in, not 23% of all decks. So of all the decks that could run Dockside Extortionist, sorry to destroy you, only 16% are running it. And the reason for that is because most Commander players figured out what I already told you. It's actually not very fun. That percent is out of all decks with red. Yep. All the decks it could be legal in. 16% of those decks. That's right. Opinion on Sol Ring. Sol Ring, the format was designed with was really designed as a place like you could play Sol Ring. It really feels that way sometimes, especially with its position in precons. And if they decide a card is going to stay legal despite power level because it's iconic for the format, then it's going to stay legal, no matter what else gets banned around it. That's the way it's going to be. I think it's the right move for Commander at this stage. I think that they should. I think that the first time you're a new player and you play a turn 1 Soul Ring, and then you get to cast all this cool stuff and feel invincible and powerful, I think that's a really great moment. So I think it's going to continue. I don't think they'll ever ban it. And while I think they might have wanted to ban it at the start, I think that here we are down the road with all that's happened. I don't think they ever should ban it. I own 3 pieces of fast mana that got banned and didn't play them for over a year because they weren't fun. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, guys. So let me ask you something. Clem BNF on YouTube with that comment. I own 3 pieces of fast mana that got banned and I didn't play them for over a year because it wasn't fun. Clem, were you sad today? Were you sad when they got banned and the price of the items you have sitting in your binder went down? Did you feel that? Because that's what I keep coming back to, is like, I kind of felt it. I was so shocked. And I did kind of feel it for a little while, like, oh, it sucks. I paid a lot of money for those. But then the more I think about it, the more I'm like, they were just sitting in my binder. I wasn't going to sell them. And I wasn't using them. It's kind of wild, right? Thomas says it felt like a gut punch. I can definitely see it. I certainly felt it for a minute. Other people save up paychecks in their minimum wage jobs to get those cards. I hope not. That's a really bad use of your resources if you're on minimum wage job. I really hope that's not true. And it does suck if they did, but man, I hope you learn a lesson from that. There are times when, like, and in this case, by that same logic, as bad as you feel for that person, aren't you happy that future people won't have to make that mistake? You know? Like, really? They felt like they had to do that to play Commander with some friends? A casual format? Aren't you glad they won't have to? Isn't that good news? Like I said, I wish it had happened sooner. But are, like, we thinking about the future? The future players in the format? Just proxy. I mean, when I started playing more Commander, one of the first things I did was order dual land and mana crypt proxies and jeweled lotus proxies. One of the first things I did. I eventually did buy the real ones because I was having fun collecting. I did feel like I had to have them. Banning cards in a casual format because they are powerful is a bad look. I don't follow your logic. I think that banning cards in a casual format, there can be a lot of reasons to do that. Power is definitely part of it, but we've also talked about monetary value. But yeah, I think banning cards that are above a power line in casual format is a good move, so that players don't feel like they have to have them to succeed, and that they can explore other things. Like, if you wanted to build optimally, these cards would be in every deck, which would automatically make every deck like $500 in like 3 cards. Like, why would we want that? Why do we want that? I say boycott the channels with rules member committee members on them. They should not be banning cards that are only eligible in that format. You can do whatever you want. That is the greatness of the internet and what you choose to consume for content. You can handle this however you want to. I will do no such thing. I actually think it's important. I think it's important to keep the game fun. I really do. And I think that while some people are going to be missing these, and I've talked to some of them today, I think that there will be less absolutely absurd pub stomping. And I think that a lot of people will realize that the format's going to be a lot of fun without some of these just automatic busto cards. Just change games from turn one. I do. I think it's a better game without these. That's something we came to on the show quite a while ago. Thank you very much, by the way, for the subs. Snuggly Hugs, Lee Rocks, Maximus Wheat, thank you. I saw a $5. Why didn't that come up in my feed? Where was that? I saw a $5 comment and I mean to read it, but it didn't actually show up in my mini feed and I don't know why. Let's see if I can find it really quick. But man, it's hard to keep up with chat. You guys are excited. Gravecrawler, thanks for the 5. I think these bans were specifically made to separate EDH from CEDH. The problem is no one wants to play CEDH and the cards will continue to lose value. I don't think that's true. I think the rules committee is consciously making decisions not to, and like, I think they are consciously making decisions that does not take into account the CEDH community, because they specifically say on their website, and they've specifically said in the past, that this is not about the competitive side of the format. They tried the flash ban. They said that was the one thing they were doing for CEDH. This, in my opinion, is not to separate EDH from CEDH. This is for casual EDH, and CEDH can then do what they want. I think that they literally are saying, CEDH, do your thing. Whatever you declare that thing to be, we already have to stay focused on this very, very large group of people. And that's what we're going to continue to focus on. There are people who play CEDH on the committee, or at least on the advisory group. I'm not positive about the committee, but I'm sure that they are aware of CEDH's existence. I would say that probably none of this is taking CEDH into account. This is all about casual. That I'm confident about. Lagegger, $5. Isn't having your cards devalue part of TCGs? Whoa. Just Commander hasn't had this since the Power 9 when Commander was small? Question mark. I don't understand the second part of your question. The Power 9 was never legal in Commander. It was banned from the start. As for isn't having your cards devalue part of TCGs, having your money devalue seems like part of life, but Magic cards, at least very powerful ones and sought after ones, did for some time go up in value. And I think that people like the idea. I think that there's an attachment to the idea that this thing has value. And like I said, even though it was not, I wasn't selling it, it was sitting in my binder. I wasn't playing it. I wasn't using it. I just had it in my binder. It still felt bad when it got banned and the price went down. I think that that just strikes a certain kind of nerve that it's like playing Operation and you hit the side of the wall and there's a large sound. No, we don't like that. We don't like knowing that the value of something went down. We like the idea that it may have continued to go up. Alderman Reason, I can't see the whole name. How do you ban casual if most people in casual don't care about bans because it's like the namesake casual? So you're saying most casual players don't care about bans. That's not true. Most casual players follow the ban list. They do that because we live in a society, okay, guys? And having rules, like why do we follow the rules of Magic? Why don't we just ignore the stack when we don't want to, right? The rules of the game matter. You can definitely rule 0. Ben used to rule 0 Golos on the show a lot. Nobody really complained. Ben's Golos stack is totally exciting, but not broken. And you can continue to do that. Anybody on the rules committee would tell you that. But how do you ban? Because you think it makes for a better gaming experience for all of the people concerned. And maybe there is a part of this. In fact, I'm sure it's a non-zero factor that is trying to take a shot at the idea of turning Commander, casual Commander, into a play-to-win format where you have to have cards worth hundreds of dollars to play it. That's the biggest reason, by the way, that the Power 9 were initially banned, because they didn't want cards in their format that sent a message that this was only for rich people. And then the next part of that is I do think there's an important element in this ban that sends a message that Wizards shouldn't just print whatever the hell they want Busto card in Commander saying that we can rule 0 it. I think that when the rules committee stands up and says, no, we don't want this, that maybe Wizards has to think more about what they're printing in their Commander products. And I think that's a good thing, because I do think that there was kind of, I mean, I'll be honest, I felt like there was a cash grabby element to some of that, where it's like, we're going to give Commander players Black Lotus, and of course they're going to buy it. So, I mean, those all kind of come in there. Why am I shilling? I'm telling you my opinion. If you can tell me how I'm shilling, you're welcome to. If you don't like that I think this ban will long-term be a good thing, I understand. That's what it is. Livewire, thank you very much. Somewhat different question. What do you think about ban effects on local game stores and their singles inventory? Man, that also sucks. Like, some of you might be joining recently. If you missed it at the top, I really wish this had happened sooner, because I think the amount of money spent on these cards would be significantly lower and the damage to players would be lower. I definitely hold the position that it sucks for people who are sitting on these, who bought these, or like, yeah, it's a lot of money. A lot of money got cut out of Commander today, out of Commander decks, which is good for the future, probably, for players who won't have to spend that money, and terrible for the players who have. And that's too bad. It really is too bad. I like asking you guys to think about the future generations right now. I know is a really tough ask when some of you are hurting. I'm just hoping that whatever is the next Dockside Extortionist, the card that's like spiking in price that feels like it has to be in every deck, I hope they ban it faster. You know, I hope they cut the momentum out from under it and don't let this go on for years. That's how I feel. Should they ban board state warping cards, says Frosty. Rhystic Study, Smothering Tithe, those affect casual players more than the cards that were banned today. I think they affect some play groups more. I think you're underestimating the effect that these cards had. But let's have a look. Let's look at Rhystic Study. Let's go to blue. What are the top blue cards? Rhystic Study is in 28% of decks. That's a lot more than Dockside Extortionist. I will say, if you are a person incredibly annoyed by Rhystic Study, you are not alone. You are not alone. But you're also not everybody. There are plenty of people who love this card, just as there were for Dockside Mana Crypt. There are people who love those cards, right? But with Rhystic Study, there is a good amount of agency. It costs a certain amount of mana, and once you play it, the balancing effect of the table can come at you. I have been in games where somebody played a Rhystic Study, and I looked at the other two players and was like, how about we each pay the one and kill them, then go on with our game? And the other two players were like, yeah. The person with the Rhystic Study wasn't very happy, but they played the card, and we actually did it, stuck to the thing, and it was over. I know there's a mythical game for some people. I know there are people out there that will never pay the one. The Commander ban list doesn't revolve around that experience. It revolves around kind of the average, like I think it tries to revolve around the average casual experience. And I think Rhystic Study is a good learning card for both communication, the value of cards. There's a lot of positives about Rhystic Study, and then there's also the part where it's just annoying. If we start banning cards because they're blatantly annoying to a percentage of the player base, even if it's like 80% of the player base is annoyed by this, then trust me, the player base will continue to be annoyed by something else and will just keep banning with no particular direction. I think that Rhystic Study might get banned someday when the amount of spells per turn gets to like some insane Yu-Gi-Oh levels. And some could say it's near there. I wouldn't be surprised if Rhystic Study were banned someday, but I definitely don't think in terms of like power level in Commander, it's just below fast mana. So we'll see. But I'm not surprised it's not banned. I'm not surprised it's not banned. All right, did I miss any other super chatties? I don't think so. Oh, no, there's one. Did I miss one in here? Don't think so. Let me grab another question here. You guys are blowing this up. I'll have a good time actually going back and reading all this later. My wife opened a Mana Crypt first pack out of MB1 box. Now it's unplayable. My wife has played like 8 times since, like 3 to 5 years when that set came out. Definition of casual. This banning sucks. So your wife is still playing Mana Crypt and really likes it and is sad that can't play it now? I wonder if I played a Mana Crypt every game I could for years. I guess it depends on if everybody else is doing it. It's not as though we can't find a mana rock to go in the deck, and I don't think the deck revolves around it. I would say put it in the binder. You have fond memories of the card. Selling it isn't going to make you a lot back. Put it in the binder and remind, you know, it's a good reminder of a really awesome card that you opened, and who knows? There might be a format someday. We've seen the way that the game goes. People didn't think commander cards would be worth as much as they are. There might be a format someday where you can play it again, but I would say don't sell it. Just binder it and feel your feelings, and who knows? Maybe there'll be a place to play it someday in the future. I think people pitching the emotional value of this card are weird. Well, you know, if you don't tie any emotional value to your possessions and your cards, some would say you are weird. I definitely had an emotional reaction when I read the ban list. I think it's weird not to feel it. I think it's very weird not to feel it a little. I have an emotional attachment to this. It ain't worth nothing. It's worth a lot to me. Am I weird? I'm probably weird. Kyle, thank you for the 5. My primary concern is the reason Nadu was banned, while stasis is legal. I know they want to moderate the pace, but to what extent? While stasis is legal. So you think stasis should be banned before Nadu? Stasis doesn't exist in the command zone. People would have to tutor it up or draw it. Stasis determines stasis creates simple turns. Nadu creates endlessly complex turns that are very, 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 very difficult for the person doing it to do optimally, and very, very boring for everybody else. Stasis, at least, is this comes down, okay, I do nothing, pass, I do nothing, pass, I do nothing, pass, wait till stasis lifts. Is that a great experience? No. Is that an experience that's okay every now and then to remind yourself not always is Magic fun? Probably. I can't remember the last time I played against stasis. I played a lot of Commander. I don't think anybody's dropped a stasis on me in a long time, because most people who play stasis realize very quickly stasis is not fun and stop playing stasis. Kind of like what we did with Mana Crypt, Dockside, and Jeweled Lotus. We just stopped playing them because they weren't as fun. If you support the RC in 2024, you deserve to sit at the kids' table next Thanksgiving. Dude, have you been at the adults' table at Thanksgiving lately? Families can't get along for like 10 minutes. I'll go sit with the kids. I'll bust out my phone. We'll play some MTG Arena. Or maybe some Hearthstone. We'll have a good time. I'll go sit with the kids any day, the way that Thanksgiving's been going in America. Lugagar. If we are banning expensive cards, why not Tabernacle? Because there's just not many of them out there. The amount of Tabernacles printed is so small that it's almost like it can't actually do any damage. But this is another example of a person who plays Tabernacle, thinks it's cool, and then they kind of get over it, right? Tabernacle is also kind of a self-policing card. Is it a combination of expensive and heavily played? Yes. Also, there's just a staple-y level to it. Why would any creature deck play Tabernacle? A lot of casual players play creature decks. Not a single one of those decks should have a Tabernacle. Opinion on Gaia's Cradle. Gaia's Cradle is really expensive. There aren't many real ones in circulation. It could go in creature decks and generate a lot of mana. It does require a board state to be effective. So if your friend is tutoring up Gaia's Cradle and popping off with it all the time, and you put the 20 Wrath of Gods that are potentially legal in your white deck in your deck, then you'll probably make their Gaia's Cradle look stupid a few times, and maybe they'll chill on it a little. But I think that if Gaia's Cradle produced colorless mana, it might be banned. It does only go in green decks, which there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. I don't know. Maybe Gaia's Cradle shouldn't be there. I think if it were more played, that would be something. I feel it's disingenuous to say these cards were not a problem. You can just rule zero them out of the game. I agree. And then complain about the ban ruining the format if you can't just rule zero it away. I think it's okay to hold both of those opinions at the same time. I don't think they're completely mutually exclusive of each other. I think that, first of all, complaining is going to happen anyway if when something like this happens. I don't see people complaining that the ban ruined the format. Am I crazy? Does somebody who feel this ban ruined Commander, would they like to step forward and offer me an argument? Because I don't see that. I see a lot of pain about price. That is where I see most of, and I see a lot of pain for CEDH, which I think CEDH will be okay. I think CEDH will adjust, and they might even be happy. They might even have fun. But does anybody actually want to say that this is ruining the format, that these bans are going to ruin the format? Any Bueller? It killed CEDH. Regular Commander is ineffective. I think it killed a style of CEDH. I think we're going to look back at this as a very turbo-y CEDH format. I think that CEDH will adjust. And I actually like bans in competitive, even when they're expensive bans, because I think part of being a competitive player that's compelling, both from a content and viewer perspective and a player perspective, is taking advantage of change. CEDH was stagnant, and I think it remains to be seen whether this makes the format better or worse for CEDH, but I do think there will be a lot of people excited to do things in CEDH that were bored with it before. I'm not speaking for all CEDH players. There's going to be a lot of sad CEDH players out there. I watch a lot of CEDH content. I know more about it than you'd think I would. But I'm looking way more forward to CEDH content now than I was last week. Like I was pretty much checked out on my CEDH content that I used to love watching because I found it so repetitive. Hot take, 90% of people that complain about stasis have never played or played against it. They look at the salt score and say, why is that legal? Well, sure, that's not really that. Of course that's true, Casual King. Of course that's true. Of course. That's why it's fun to show people like Raren who have never played a game of Commander or Magic in their life these cards and see the reaction, right? Of course. Of course. Frosty says, thoughts on Mox Diamond? Was going to get one, finish my Stronghold set, but now I don't know if I should wait for a ban. I think Mox Diamond would be like in a B tier of busted, and I think it's unlikely to eat a ban. But I think honestly, if today did shake you, just don't. You know, just don't. It's okay if you don't. Not the end of the world. One Ear Wonder says, the ban that hurt me is deck diversity to things like Corvold with no dockside that just not nearly as good, sadly. As well as more expensive commanders will see a lot less play for it, sadly. I think in CDH you're right. I think that those strategies of the big expensive commander in CDH are going to take a hit. And I think that they're going to have to find other ways to compete. And I think that's not the end of the world. Corvold was God, I hated that deck. I'm not going to cry any tears for Corvold. And Corvold was one of the decks when I went to the game store, to Lantern Games, that I saw pub stomping new players the most. So I'm not going to cry any tears. Now that is very, confirmation bias, right? That is just my perspective. And yeah, Corvold's in a much worse place without Dockside. Lost its little bro. But my God, have I had bad times with Corvold. Oh, man. Anyway. Let's see. Titan Lord. Format will be fine. Rule 0 doesn't solve everything, that's for sure. Sometimes players just need to receive a firm no. Those cards only exist for degeneracy. For every time Rule 0 filtered out the mana crypt that was going to provide the turn 1 or 2 win that was going to make a total pub stomp happen, it probably just went on unchecked 10 more times in the wild. So, like, yeah. For the future, I think it's probably a good thing for the future. 10 Canadian from Ian. While I fully support the need for this ban, do you think that the announcement was a bit hasty, given that the Command Fest Toronto is happening in less than a week? So, there's two sides to this question. Well, actually 3. First, I'll say, was this hasty? No, this took forever. Do I wish they'd done it at a different time? Maybe. But I don't think they've looked at when Command Fest is happening as a determining factor for whether or not to do something for the format that they felt, for whatever, like they came to the conclusion this needed to be done. I don't think they're going to pull back for a Command Fest because of a casual format. So there are 2 things about Command Fests upcoming, London, Toronto. When you answer this question, were you going to play in a competitive CEDH event? If yes, yeah, you are scrambling now. You have to find a deck, and that can be very hard in CEDH. Cards are expensive. That is gonna suck. That's a bit of a feels bad. I'm sorry. They did not care about your competitive event. I am telling you right now, the rules committee did not care about the competitive events you might enter in the near future when making this decision, and they never will. You kind of have to be used to being part of a format that isn't about your competitive mindset. Now, on the other hand, if what you're talking about is going to Command Fest Toronto, playing decks with banned cards in them in casual or high power, I think that if you are honest at the table that this just got banned, do you guys mind if I play these one more time? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. Just have 3 cards with you to sub back in. If these cards were absolutely critical to your deck, you're probably more of a CDH player, right? And like, again, the bans will never revolve around you. It's the rules committee is clear about this. They are managing a casual format, not your competitive format. Anyway, I think that if you are good at communicating at your Command Fest, I think they might let you, some tables would let you play your mana crypts one more time. I don't think it'll be the end of the world. Kevin says, I want to know if any committee mems sold any of these cards or told someone to sell or trade before ban. What safeguards are in place to stop it? Well, you sound like you would be a good federal investigator or compliance officer. Maybe you are. I don't think we get to know that. Do we want to know? Would it be a salacious story? Sure. And if people want, but again, I don't think the rules committee is under obligation to share that stuff, to be honest. I don't know for sure. It's kind of weird. We can't really apply like SEC guidelines to Magic the Gathering. I feel like you would be a good SEC officer if that's your first suspicion. And as far as ways to stop it, what safeguards are in place, if you guys know of any, let me know. I don't know of any. There is a certain amount of faith when we take a format that is not controlled by Wizards of the Coast and engage in it and spend money on it. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of faith got shaken today. It's the way it is. Sasha says, with the ban on the mind, why are the RC not looking at unbanned cards that could have been unbanned? I'm sure they are. I'm sure that once, and I've seen this a lot in many formats, once a card is banned, the burden of proof becomes higher to unban it because the question that will always be asked is what could go wrong? What could go wrong is we unban Mana Crypt, the price skyrockets, everybody buys their Mana Crypts, and then we ban it again a year later. you know? That's what could go wrong. Why would we open the door to that even happening if we can just leave the door shut? What is the net positive? Why, like, do people want to play Leovold? I'm sure some do. Do most people want to play Leovold or care that there's a Leovold when there's a million other commanders printed every month that they can play in every new set? Probably not. I think it's still just like looking at net positive versus net negative. The net negative is more likely. Brian says, Teferi's Protection and One Ring can be countered. Ring can go in any deck, gives an extra turn, draws cards for 4 mana. I think that deserves ban consideration. Okay? I promise you they considered it. We good? I haven't put the One Ring in a deck. Like, the only decks I still put the One Ring in are my specifically Lord of the Rings decks, because I also found it to be too stapley and not as fun over time. But I still think it's a good commander card. Like, it always makes me smile to use it. Like, I still haven't gotten salty at somebody playing it. I think it's a perfectly fine card. Like, gives card advantage to colors that struggle with card advantage. It's 4 mana. Nah. One Ring is fine in Commander. Modern, on the other hand, we'll see. Modern is sus right now with the One Ring. And Teferi's Protection is busted, but it takes a good player to wield it well. And it also takes people walking into it. Teferi's Protection is a lot of people getting their comeuppance, and I love it. Are you happy with the ban? Watch the beginning sometime. I'm not going to recap everything. I definitely felt a lot of pain and shock when I saw it. I felt pain for a little while thinking about the cards that I own. And then I came around to the idea that it's probably the right thing to do, and I just wish it had happened a lot sooner. If less cards had been sold and bought and sold and changed hands over the last several years, I don't think the pain had to be as much, and the shock probably wouldn't be as much as it is now. Some of these takes are absolute head trauma tier. People like Magic, dude. Anybody here happy about, anybody here, like, you know, really like Magic? Really tie yourself to it? I think we do. Look, you guys are up pretty late at night. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Thoughts on banning tutors? Nope. I think that if you engage in using tutors, your deck has a very specific job, and whether that's combo kill on turn 3 or stupid secret commander nonsense, I think tutors are totally fine. You get to decide how much tutor to put in your deck building. I personally have leaned away from it because I like playing a lot of different cards. I like my decks to have a lot of different cards in them. Do you think it's wise to buy Jeweled Lotus now? No. But that's the great thing. Plenty of people have made money and zigged where others have zagged. You do you. You do you. But you also can't be the one crying in here when it only goes lower in price, okay? Guys, you're talking to somebody. I think for the most part, I've got my financial life well put together. I think I'm probably top 20%, like in the 80-20 world. I think I'm in the top 20% as far as like keeping my money stuff together. But you are talking to a guy who took a shot on Lehman Brothers at around $20. That didn't age well. That didn't age well at all. I didn't think they'd let it go under. I thought, no way. Any other Lehman Brothers moonshotters here? Diamond hands. I'm sure it's coming around. Do you think they should have banned more fast mana? No. I mentioned, I think I addressed this a similar question a bit earlier. I think they took their shots at the best in class version of the effects, and the commander brain says all of this thing are similar. because I don't think the commander brain overanalyzes. They just want more of the thing. I think they shot down the best in class of these effects. I think they sent a message, and I think they hit the right ones. If you're trying to hit fast mana, I think they hit the right ones. I really do. And again, it sucks. It sucks that they were so expensive and that's gone on for so long. Do you think they will ever revert their bans in the future? You never know. You never know. I doubt these will be reverted. I don't think they will, but you never know. Never say never. Thank you, Ian. I think you meant to send a message there. I didn't see one, though. Thank you for the super chat. Drew says, I honestly would have preferred them to have banned Soul Ring rather than just Crypt. Thoughts on Soul Ring ban? I think that their reasons explained it. Soul Ring at this point is iconic. I think that if they ban Soul Ring, they don't work with wizards. They don't work for wizards. But it would be a hell of a thing to make all of the precons that Wizards was generating for the next few years invalid. And I do wonder, like, pay attention over the next 12 months, guys. Will there be a Dockside reprint, a Jeweled Lotus reprint? Will there be a Mana Crypt reprint? Like, will these Masters sets have some of these cards in them? You know, kind of curious. It'll be a pretty weird thing. But no, don't ban Soul Ring. These experiences are good once in a while. It's a density of these effects, and Soul Ring is an iconic part of the format. They don't ban Brainstorm and Legacy. They're not going to ban, what was it that they said they wanted? They wanted the Delve cards in Pioneer. It's okay to have an iconic part of the format that's powerful, and I think Soul Ring has been that for so long that changing it does more harm than good at this point. But Atraxa is still legal. And? You salty? Dies to removal, bro. Have you tried Counterspell? Oh my god, you paid $5 for that. Should have saved that money for an Atraxa. Okay. Sure. Just Vandal Blast the Soul Ring, right? Oh my god. I mean, the money matters, right? Soul Ring costing $100 probably would be banned. Probably would be. Just being real. Of course it matters. You cannot make every precon ever illegal in its own format. It would do more harm than good. It would do more harm than good. William says, justification for banning, I just upgraded the jump scare precon, and while playtesting, I turned to an Emrakul. Insert incredibly OP creature here. What? So that's why I got banned? Are you just paying money to flex? Where's the takes? Where's the real comments? Let's see here. Who voted for these derps that comprise the rules committee? You don't vote for kings. They were chosen. Your democracy has no place in the commander. Let me say, having met some rules committee members, and I will say there's nobody there who doesn't love Commander. You can disagree. You can disagree with their opinions. You can disagree with this ban. Totally fine. You can disagree with me if you want to. I'm just telling you from somebody who's actually gotten to know some people. Had conversations. They want to do right by the format and the game in the long run. I imagine this was a very hard thing for them to do. They're not in an... They know They know that some of you took a gut punch today and lost a lot of money, and that's how that feels. They know that. I guarantee they didn't take it lightly. I promise. I know if I were in that position, I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised. Some of them might not be sleeping well tonight, really. Like, and it's not their job, right? I guarantee that they aren't doing this just to harm you, that they have an idea of what is the better format. And you can say I'm a shill or whatever you want. That's my feeling on it. That's my take. You don't have to agree. Doctor says, if I had a nickel for every time a pirate with 2 toughness was created treasures got banned from Commander, I'd have 2 nickels. Is this a Hull Breacher joke? LOL. True. And aren't we glad they got rid of Hull Breacher years later? Like, aren't we glad that we aren't spending $100 for a Hull Breacher? What a miserable card. Whew. Rue, now that the S plus tier fast mana is gone, do you think the price of A tier fast mana like Opal, Mox, and Vault go up? I don't know enough about Magic Finance to say for sure on any of that. It's not my specialty. I will say reprints could just kick you right in the nuts on those. I doubt that Mox Opal, Chrome Mox, or Mana Vault will be in a pre-con anytime soon, but I'm not saying it's impossible. You got to be careful with these purchases. Like, today shouldn't be ooh, what am I going to go out and buy necessarily? You're going to have to be careful with this stuff. Especially when, like, it was 5 years in the making, this ban, since Golos got banned, something like that. Like, are they going to ban more often? Are they going to be more aggressive? I think you've got to be careful for the next year when spending over $100 on a single and see how it shakes out. See if they're going to start banning quarterly, annually, or if it's going to go back to quiet. I don't know. Played Commander tonight. Instead of rolling dice for turn order, whoever lost the most money from the bans got to go first. Hey, there you go. Oh, that's lemonade right there. That's Canadian lemonade. NYN. People speculate that WotC don't ban cards in Modern for pack selling reasons. Do you think this backlash makes them even more conservative? WotC? For banning cards in like Modern? I hope if something comes out of this on the WotC side, I hope that they tone down on printing cards that they need to be powerful enough for Commander. Like, I mean, there are just some things about Dockside, Jeweled Lotus that make you be like, what are they doing? I hope that WotC does tone down printing insanely busted cards specifically for Commander, specifically to sell product. I think that they can make a lot of good, unique, and fun cards and sell the same amount of product without making you buy like $100 for the next mega staple. You know what I mean? I think the format's better without that kind of what I'll call interference, but it's not. But you know what I mean, I think. So one thing that's come up a lot, I've been seeing people saying that CDH is going to spin off and be its own format. I don't know, man. I have a feeling that they'll go try it and then come back. But we'll see. There are a lot of decks in CDH that kind of get hosed because that format did revolve around singleton cards. And Dockside was a big one. Huge. Jeweled Lotus. Some decks probably don't get nearly as much play without Jeweled Lotus. Tivit? You kidding me? Who pays 6 mana for their commander? Retro says, here's a question. Will LPCS do a last hurrah for these cards? Nope. We're Responsible Commander Show. We stopped using these cards a long time ago. We found it made the games way more fun. I can't wait for you guys to see what we filmed today. But we've been building pods that get further and further away from running the same staples all the time, and it's made our games a lot more fun. And while there's many factors that go into views on YouTube, views are definitely on the rise for the show. So I think we're doing a good job without getting back into these cards. Do you think that designed with Commander in mind is healthy? Not really. I think it has its brights. I'm sure it has positives that we're not seeing because we don't realize it. But because it's kind of a thing that happens in the background, and when it's working, we don't notice as much as when it doesn't work, right? So I'm sure it has positives that I'm not like seeing as clearly, but I do feel like Commander was a great format before things were basically printed for it and pushed for it. Nathan, do you think a CEDH split is a good move to preserve that format? No, I don't. Or do CEDH players just need to deal with it and make the shift? So the way you say just deal with it and make the shift is probably going to be alarming for people who don't like being told what to do. But you're playing competitive Commander, competitive Elder Dragon Highlander. As soon as you start playing something with a different ban list and calling it competitive Elder Dragon Highlander, it's not Elder Dragon Highlander anymore. It's not Commander anymore. It might as well be called Oathbreaker or whatever name you want to staple on it. And maybe they will. Maybe that's the solution, is to make their own format like that. But I think that no matter what, people are going to take this format that is so beloved and so widely played that you can find games of all over the world and on Spell Table at all hours of the night, and content on YouTube by the truckloads, billions of videos, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's hundreds of, yeah, there's so many videos, right? People are always going to want to take that and push it to its limit and call it the best in Commander. So there's always going to be something like CEDH anyway. So they may as well keep calling it CEDH. And it is kind of, I'm sure some people are going to hate it, but it's also a very proxy friendly community. So I think they'll get you. I think they'll move on. I really think they will. I feel like I missed another one there. So if I missed any of your stuff, sorry about that. I'll try to catch it here. More Brawl content in the future. Brawl content, I feel, really got pushed around by Modern Horizons 3, man. I feel like I can't play Brawl without that. And the 1v1 nature and the inability to kind of design a pod like you can in Commander, it definitely makes me feel stuck in certain commanders in Brawl, which I'm trying to get over. Not meant to be offensive, but I played hundreds of multiplayer MTG games, most likely before you were born. Unlikely. Very, very, very unlikely, buds. Banning Mana Crypt is fucked up. I got my first Mana Crypt by sending in the proof of purchase on the back of a book. And it was by far the most busted card you could get from that series. This card should have been banned a long time ago. I will stand by that. I don't think this card should have been legal for a second in EDH. I think the format would have been better without it. But going this far, I think they let it run because they knew it was going to financially hurt people. I think they let it go a long time because of that. I don't think that banning Mana Crypt is a bad idea. I don't think it ever should have been legal. People need to stop putting stock in things like this. I buy 60-pound games that are like £5 now. I ain't crying. I got my fun. I can still play the game. The RC doesn't own us. I would have agreed with you for a really long time, Sam, but the more I've done Magic content and been around Magic players, like, people really get bought into the financial idea of the value of their cards and collections, like more than I think I ever expected. I thought I understood it. I didn't. It goes way deeper than that. So I totally get why people are upset today. I do. I think that comparing it to a video game where you have your fun and then you move on doesn't work when you start talking about like physical cards that people invest so much of their identity in, you know? It's not the same. I can see where you're coming from because I was there, but I'm not there anymore. You either A, can financially handle the ban list changing, or B, you can't. I mean, I guess that's true. But I will say there are going to be a lot of people who are going to make a bigger deal out of it because it does feel so personal. When honestly, if we looked honestly at the two different realities, if we could flash forward 20 years and we could compare the reality where Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus got banned and they were in your collection, and the reality where Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus got banned and did not get banned rather, and are in your collection, 20, 30, however many years you want to go from now, most people, their situation will feel basically unchanged. The feelings today are the biggest difference because most people don't actually sell their cards at a time when they're still really valuable. Most of us hold on to them. And when we finally do sell them, we end up like having some kind of a I Quit Magic breakdown where we like sell it all off in a bulk auction, and the price of the Jeweled Lotus and the Mana Crypt wasn't going to change that much because we just unloaded it all, you know? Like there's a lot of people that are upset about this that won't actually be as affected by this way down the line, way down the line. Okay. But that doesn't ease the pain very much today. These are the kind of like things I try to do. I try to like zoom out. When I get really upset, without going too deep into it, I got scammed. I got scammed out of about $250 earlier this year. And I was really offended and upset. This was non-magic related, to be clear. This is something else. I was really upset. And I felt really like kind of violated, or like I felt stupid, right? Feeling stupid is terrible. I felt powerless. And then I zoomed out, and I do this. I have a good habit with this. So I did this like within the first hour that this happened. I zoomed out and I was like, all right, 20 years from now, am I going to worry that much about the $250 I should have in my bank account more than what I have today? Or than in this reality? And I said, you know what? I think it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. Big picture, it's not the end of the world. And I've got like habits that let me do that, right? I think that a lot of people are dealing with that, like that feeling of powerlessness, and it's going to take a while. A lot of people don't do the zoom out, and some people do the zoom out and it doesn't help. It doesn't make them feel better. So I think a lot of people are going to be mad for a while. And that's too bad. It's too bad. It sucks. Did I miss any ones while I was monologuing there? Somebody got me on a little tangent. Little story time. Do you think the outcry is partly due to being the first major ban since EDH blew up, and more casual players unfamiliar with their deck getting nuked? Probably. Like times right before COVID, then into COVID, like Magic did grow tremendously, right? And a lot of people probably did just get into this habit that their cards are safe here. Or they came into the game and never knew their cards weren't safe. Like maybe they never played formats where things got banned. So yeah, this is a lot of babies' first ban announcements, and some of them probably did save up to buy Mana Crypts because their friends were playing Mana Crypts and they felt like they had to have Mana Crypts. But again, the good news is that doesn't have to happen again. Whatever the next Mana Crypt is, hopefully they ban it quicker before that happens, and hopefully there just isn't more Mana Crypts printed, right? That would also be nice, right? But the idea is that we don't have to spend the rest of our Commander life waiting for a Mana Crypt reprint so we can buy super expensive Commander Masters packs hoping to crack one, right? Kyle says, they banned Nadu, I'm financially ruined. What was Nadu at? I think its price had already plummeted, right? Because of the modern format. William, I think that a broad horizon for the meta of CEDH is a beautiful thing. Yeah, variety is the spice of life. Having a narrow meta does nothing but dull down the experience for everyone. I think long term you're right. I think that variety had a lot to do with at least some of the argument that will be made here of like these cards probably, if printed enough, would be in every single deck, and that's part of what cutting them out is good for, to make people feel like they don't have to have this. Seth says, I had 5 copies of Paradox Engine in all my CDH decks and preached for a ban, and when it happened at $90 I felt good, but not with Mana Crypt. Can you explain why? Oh, did you just like that better? Was your Paradox Engine experience more of a Nadu? Because nobody seems sad about Nadu, and I did say, you'll remember, I said to Ryan, I thought Paradox Engine, I thought that Nadu would get banned for the reason Paradox Engine was banned. Brawl content, don't have an answer for you today. Sorry about that. I guess something would have to really tickle my fancy. Do you think this ban creates a friction between Rules Committee and WotC? I'm not sure. That's why I said keep an eye on the releases over the next 12 months. If their next like Commander Masters set has Dual Lotus in it, you'll know that this was not a you'll know it wasn't a coordinated plan, that's for sure. For those of you who like conspiracy theories, that's what you keep your eye on. And then be glad, right? You won't be very happy when you open a Jeweled Lotus, but be glad like it's not like maybe they can't justify pricing the set really high. Who knows? It says really hit red decks in CEDH. I mean, yeah, it's the only like hit Nadu decks too, but you know. Dockside. Dockside was a win con, such a huge card from mono red all the way up to 5 color. I mean, it hits everything in CDH. CDH was warned though. They said they were keeping an eye on Dockside. They definitely mentioned Dockside in their ban updates for years. Nadu and Paradox Engine felt the same boring and slow. Mana Crypt has existed for so long for my group, and outside the group, it was fine for all of us. I can see the argument that Mana Crypt's fine, especially for people who got used to it. But I will tell you, as somebody who puts content on the internet, every game we played where a Mana Crypt hit the battlefield would spawn an in-proportionate number of comments compared to every other card we played, with the possible exception of revised dual lands, of people being upset that we play Mana Crypt and feeling like the content was no longer for them. That is one of the reasons we stopped playing it. Isn't Flubs the Fool as time consuming? It's not. Oh, is Flubs the Fool the next Nadu? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you're reaching on that one. I think they're very different cards. This sucks. I like games being over in 3 to 6 turns and super competitive. I'd rather just be racing 3 other ruthless players trying to sneak a win con as fast as possible than dragging stuff out. I think that is still going to be a possibility. It's just going to be harder. And now, of course, more Thassa's Oracle decks are good. Less red decks are good. You know? I think that this is still your format. I think you're going to keep trying to make this happen. That's what competitive EDH will continue to be. I don't think that style is dead. I think you just have to try a little harder to find other ways to do it. Will Rarin be guessing if they were banned in Commander? You know, Rarin's too in the loop now. He sent me a message today because we had just made a video where we had talked about, it'll come out soon. We had just made a video together talking about the price of cards, and one of the cards was Mana Crypt, and he was wondering if it should be in the video or not now. So he's already in the loop. I don't get to surprise him anymore. Thoracle needs to be banned. I don't know. You can just play another game, right? And it does feel weird. Like, people who are used to a power level grading scale of bans would think that a turn, like a 2-card 3-mana combo that wins the game should be banned. It makes logical sense. It makes sense to me from my brain from all the other formats I've played. Still, competitive players need to end games. This barely impacts the top tier CEDH decks. I don't think that's true. I think Sisay, like CEDH corner, guys. Sisay's just hurting, right? And Sisay was like a top tier deck. Like, I don't know if Sisay's got some terrible adjustments to do. Like, terrible adjusting to do. It had become such a competitive deck because it didn't have to run bad planeswalkers to go infinite. But now it does. Ooh. Name Kane, thank you for the 2. I started playing MTG this month because of you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hope you're having fun. Hope you didn't buy a Mana Crypt. That would be sad. You think this is a statement against WotC designing cards for the Commander? It does feel that way. It does feel like they are trying to take a stand for players not wanting to pay high prices for obviously busted staple cards printed only for Commander. Now, I could be reading into that, but I think that anybody like reading this and understanding that the rules committee is a separate entity from WotC might see that as well. I can see where that conclusion comes from. This doesn't affect Tymna Thrasios. Yeah, true. There's a few decks it doesn't affect. But that deck, I would say, while very competitive, like everybody knew that like a big reason not to play that deck and run red was Dockside, right? So you're running Collector Roof. I would love if they stopped making things specifically for Commander outside of precons. Me too. But would we? I like it's again one of those things where there's a lot of forces working behind the scenes that we don't see. Maybe there are benefits we don't realize. And there's a lot, like when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong and it's in your face and we say, no, that's bad. I don't like, I like that the precons are there. I don't think we need as many blatantly Commander cards in the set, but clearly they're trying to also sell packs of the set. I really hate the Commander cards, the Commander only cards that are in the set packs that aren't in the precons. That feels weird to me. Buzz says, my bad. Google says you're an 81 kid also. Thanks. I maintain this Mana Crypt ban sucks. I'm sure a lot of people will agree with you. I am sad by the timing and sad by the financial damage. I think it's the right ban. But again, don't have to agree with that. Crypt Key, thank you very much for becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate you. Hope you're involved. I hope you guys are involving the group therapy session tonight as we try to answer more questions and just talk about it. Obviously, I got on here really late because I was at the studio all day playing Commander and filming, and I've been itching to talk about this all day, and obviously a lot of you are still vibing about it. Obviously, you guys are still fired up about it. I didn't know if anybody would be on. Well, have a look at the numbers. You guys are here. Holy crap. TGB's 5 years older than me and looks 15 years younger. Get good. Rip my textured jeweled lotus. You want me to? Here, we can rip it together. I know what you're saying. I know you mean rest in peace, but would it feel good to you guys? We just tore this to pieces right now. Well, I'm not going to. You never know what the future holds. And I do have a binder that's like my band binder and my memories binder. They kind of go together. It's like, you know, I was there. I was there the day they banned this card. Someday you'll probably want to reminisce. It won't hurt as much. It'll just be a thing that happened. We talked a little bit about Mana Vault and Mox earlier, T-Spin. Just not as good. They went after the S tier cards. They didn't go after the A tier cards. I think they hit. What's the price of it generally speaking? I'm trying to remember. Was it like $300 some dollars? Let's see. Textured Jeweled Lotus. Number 1066. $362 right now. Oh, let's do this. This will be fun. Oh, what happened here? What's going... Guys, the trend is your friend. Are you kidding? Yep. There we are. Low sale price, $150. Crazy. Crazy. Number go down, I know. Like a rock sinking to the bottom of the sea. Will we see more Esper and Sultai contenders come up in CEDH? Well, I think that having to play red isn't as important. It does, like, I think that you would have been looking at Tivit if Jeweled Lotus were still here, right? Like, without Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus, Tivit is gonna not just immediately be the Esper deck, but maybe you go Tinma Malcolm? That deck always should have been pretty good. I think with big mana being less free, it's probably better. I don't know. That, again, CEDH corner. The low sale on a Mana Crypt is $30. Good God. Single Lupus, I'm not upset about the bans, but I also didn't lose much beyond a single Dockside. I imagine I'd be way saltier if I had a Lotus and a Crypt. I mean, yeah. If you guys can't see how people who spent money like on these cards would be like frustrated, upset, shaken, feeling worse about the game in general, like that just makes sense. It makes sense to be that upset. It really does. Rip Itali. Niv. Dude, people are acting like you can't cast a 7 mana commander. You have to get creative. Oh man, Jeweled Lotus. You held so much together. Unban Grizzlebrand. Be pretty funny. What precedent will this set for the future? What says they won't ban Ancient Tomb, TOR, other rocks and staples, Rhystic Studies, Smothering Tithe? Nothing. The weird thing is that was always the case. This puts it into a sharper contrast of how possible it is. People don't think people live their life all over this country, and this is an extreme example, I know that. People live their life all over this country with the chance that a tornado will hit their house. But people are way more afraid of a tornado hitting their house after a tornado just went through their town, right? The analogy doesn't hold up on everything, but a figurative tornado hit us today, making us realize that tornadoes that destroy things that we love are possible. So it's natural to be on guard. And I'm telling you right now, this was true last week, and it will be true next week, and will probably be true in 5 years. There's nothing saying that they can't ban a card in your format. Always has been this way. It's just right now we feel it. So what I was saying is this abrupt shift from the way they've been doing things, having not banned anything in what I think is 5 years, right? They only unbanned a few things, Worldfire, right? That abrupt change to now suddenly banning these expensive cards feels out of nowhere. And I think it would be wise to second guess all of your purchases for very expensive staple cards, because they're probably expensive for a reason. And if the reason is cheating mana or doing something obscene in the format, something utterly broken, it makes sense to be cautious for the next year and see if they're going to continue to do this. Are they going to make bans more often than they used to? Or do they go back in their hole and then we hear nothing from them for another year? And then you look at the price of these things, maybe they get reprinted in some Wizards products. Maybe you get an opportunity to pick up an Ancient Tomb for, $40 because of some reprint. Maybe you do, but just try to be smart. Try to be smart. And especially if you're on a budget, be very careful with this stuff. I'll say it again for those joining late. If you missed it, one of the first things I did when I got into Commander was buy proxies. I bought proxies of dual lands, I bought Mana Crypt, and I bought Jeweled Lotus proxies. One of the first things I did. Get some cheap proxies, and then eventually I went out and collected the real thing when I felt good about collecting full sets. Love from Singapore. Yeah, that's what happens when I'm on late. I see people I don't normally see. Thank you. Elusive Spectre. Thank you for the $5. Isn't it messed up that they spoke to WotC about doing this months prior, but tell us nothing? For me, I'm done buying cards from now on. Is it messed up that they spoke to WotC? Is it messed up that they spoke to WotC, but didn't tell us anything? Where is it confirmed that they spoke to WotC about this months prior? Is that posted somewhere? Do we have that for sure? Because I wasn't aware. I did not see that. Any receipts? Any receipts on this claim for me? It's on the Discord for the RC. Jim's tweet. Okay. Somebody, let me see. Somebody post me a link to that. Let me go over here. I don't think it'll work in my chat here. So I gotta pull it off the website chat. Anybody got a link for me? You guys should see the chat. It's like flying by trying to load everything. I don't think links are blocked on YouTube, but give it a try. Jim said they've been talking to WotC about it for a year. Thank you, Krista Poole, for the gifted sub. Anybody got a link? Come on, guys. It's the internet. You guys have links, right? Message restricted? Let me see. How do I... So I guess it's not going through. I thought I turned on links. I thought I made it okay to share links. Dude, I can't even see these things? How unhelpful. Well, that is a lesson for me not to use Streamlabs chat. But I haven't interacted this much with my own chat in a while. We haven't been streaming as much this year. Let's see. Can I get onto Twitter on my desktop? I can't log in. There's something wrong with my two-factor auth, which I've sent in a case. People who like to tell me how to do that, thank you. But they haven't fixed it. I can't send link. Sorry about that. Apparently you can't. I thought I turned it on so that you guys could. RTCG 4th, 5th post on the page. Okay. I'm breaking my rule about going to Reddit, guys. Here we go. With today's news, Magic is not designed as a financial investment. It's true. It's a fact. Okay. Maybe I've been giving Reddit a hard time for no reason. This is pretty funny. There you go. You guys get dark mode. Are you happy? Come on. All right. Here we go. WotC knows that Commander Rules Committee was considering banning Mana Crypt and Jewel Lotus a year old. Then they proceed to reprint them in Commander Masters and LCI in second half of 2023. Jim, I promise you that bans in Commander have a longer discussion and debate period than the 3 weeks it's been since the CEDH RC situation at the end of August. We've been talking about these bans with each other, with Wizards, so they do their own communications and align bans with MTGO, for a little over a year. The timing is unfortunate, but if you're reading anti-CEDH intent here, you're reading something that's not there. All right, so I can see why people are upset. Reading this immediately makes it sound like there's collusion, right? There's some kind of collusion. And then it's like, well, why didn't you tell the people? I think that we can't assume from this that they were talking about exactly these bans. They probably... I would be willing to get, like, I really do think that what they're probably doing is going to them with a menu of what if we did this? How hosed would your products be? And that's why I said it's interesting to see which of these cards would be released in the next, 12 months. And that would kind of inform us as to how much they work together with WotC on these decisions. They can do this kind of whenever they want to. Like, the rules committee could do this without working with WotC. I think they understand that for the players, it's better. And there are different ways to look at this. If you're trying to do what's best for the players, you want them to open cards when they're opening the packs that are legal and they get a chance to enjoy. At the same time, it sucks because you also don't want them going to the secondary market and buying, spending over $100 for a card that you're thinking about banning. It's like, it's got big ups and big downside. It would suck to be opening a card in a pack that is already banned that used to be worth money, but it sucks more to spend money on that single. I don't know if I can justify it that way. I don't know if that's a good logic. To say, okay, because this card is in your upcoming product, we won't ban it yet. We'll wait until this day to ban this thing. Still, reading this, it doesn't tell you exactly which ban they're talking about. I bet they've been talking, they mentioned Dockside in previous ban announcements for years. So I guarantee that one came up. Nadu would be really recent, right? They probably have talked to Wizards about banning Nadu since the moment they got it spoiled, right? So that's been only a few months. So did they know a year ago that they were going to ban Jeweled Lotus and Dockside Extortionist and just not share it with the community? Is that what you can take from this? I don't think so. I think that's a big jump. It's not impossible. I can see why your brain would go there. It reeks of collusion, but I think that that's a huge jump to go from this statement to they knew about, they were going to ban these cards. They knew they were going to ban Mana Crypt for a year and they told us nothing. I don't think that's clear. What I honestly think happened, let me think a little bit more. If I had to guess what happened, I think they wanted to ban Dockside. They've hinted at it for a while. They wanted to ban Dockside. And when they really started to nail down why, we found ourselves on a slippery slope of, well, okay, what about Mana Crypt? And what about Jeweled Lotus? Aren't they as or more egregious than Dockside? Like, aren't they potentially worse? And I think that the argument could not be made that they are not. That, like, those I think are in the same S tier. And I think as the talk progressed around Dockside, I'm guessing the slippery slope carried them to, okay, these as well. These are the cards that are in that tier. A fourth would be Soul Ring, but there's not an important reason to ban Soul Ring when it's very cheap and part of every precon. There's never a good time to ban Soul Ring, ever. It would do more harm than good. We talked about that before. So I think the slippery slope led them to those three. And then, of course, Nadu is Nadu. I don't think you can take this and say they knew they were going to ban Mana Crypt a year ago. I think they knew they wanted to get Dockside, and I think talking it out landed on those others as well. But I can see where you're getting it from. This does turn on the conspiracy-minded brain for collusion. I bought the neon blue Mana Crypt. Dude, I was going to. I still might, I'm not gonna lie. I wanted the blue Mana Crypt as an ego play. I still do. I still might get myself a Christmas present. Don't judge me. Please don't hate me. I got a lot of store credit, okay? There should be an endangered list. Should there be an endangered list? They tried this. They tried this in Historic. They had like a suspended list. I guess that's not the same. People generally hated it and didn't like it. Jim said, our bans aren't reliant on Wizards product timing, but we do give them a heads up if we are going to ban a card so they can pull it from an upcoming product release. I mean, is that good business? I think it's good business practice for their relationship with Wizards. I'm sure that this relationship has a lot of awkward things about it, because at any point Wizards could choose not to acknowledge the RC. And I still think that an independent RC is good for Commander. So I think it's a positive that they work together in some aspects. But yeah, there's things about that I don't think will ever feel right to you and I, to be honest. We've all seen this coming, let's be real. Nah, Patton. A lot of people never saw this coming. A lot of people did not believe a tornado could drop on their town until it did. That's not how people work. People get comfortable. It's only when they're reminded of their minuscule ant-like size in the universe that they actually comprehend how small and insignificant we truly are. Yeah. Fun fact, Aerial Extortionist is still legal. See? Practically the same card, right? Could you tell me a good replacement for the banned cards? No, that's part of why they got banned, because they were just at a whole other level. But I mean, I like hitting my land drops. You could put in 3 lands. How about that? We talk about the Redditor who's just wrong here. There's no way WotC didn't have the reprints already locked in by the time talks even started. Not for sure, right? Again, I have a feeling it's been a few years of talking about Dockside. I think that any of us looking from the outside, judging what's right and wrong here, don't have enough information. We don't really know which product and what card was talked about when. We can find other reasons to get mad, but we've probably already decided to be mad if this makes us more mad. But we can't know as much as we want to know. It's not something that we're going to get an inside look at. There's also a lot that they have to be careful with as far as like financial impact. For sure, this is the most financially impactful ban announcement I think I've ever seen. So who knew and when, and especially what they share with the public. They have to be very, like, there's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot that can go wrong for like market manipulation stuff. There's a lot of responsibility to be taken. It's scary. Honestly, this was probably a very scary ban announcement to make if you're in their shoes. And I am confident this wasn't taken lightly. Will neon cards maintain value? I don't know. There are collector's items that aren't particularly played anywhere that still have value. Magic collecting is a bizarre thing. Uniquely hard to find cards and printings are probably going to hold some amount of value that has nothing to do with whether or not you can play them. For a certain audience, it's about collecting them. If you think this was a rough ban list, you didn't play Peak Birthing Pod. I did. I actually did. I think this is worse. I think this is rougher. I know that that was a very expensive deck that got hosed, but that deck, you know, was going to get power crept out of into oblivion anyway at some point. It was always going to go down, either quickly or over time. This is a nosedive to the most widely played paper format, featuring cards that people thought would, they probably honestly thought, a lot of people honestly thought Mana Crypt would always be a part of the format. I think it's a whole different punch in the gut. Rougher than Jace Stoneforge? Yeah. I mean, that was definitely going to rotate someday, right? It had a time limit. People didn't think this had a time limit. They didn't think this could happen. That's part of what makes it so shocking. Bulk Mythic Rare, 30 cents. God bless the memers, man. They're trying to save us from ourselves. They really are. God bless them. Oh man, guys, try to find a way to laugh. It's so good for the soul. A Soul Ring coming to standard. It is not. I think bans in a casual Eternal format are odd, as it can invalidate cards, playstyles you enjoy, and indicates there is a base level and competitive nature they want to enforce. Well, yeah, there's an... In case you didn't realize, even casual players like to stomp the shit out of each other. So sometimes we need to be protected from ourselves. I know, we're grown-ups playing a card game. We don't want to be protected from ourselves. I said at the top, for anybody joining, I think that in the long term, this is a good thing. and it sucks that it took so long to happen because it financially hurt more people than I think it had to. But I think in the long term, it's a good thing. I already stopped playing these cards. I own them. I feel the pain of their price going down, but I wasn't playing them anymore because they just aren't fun. You can still rule zero them in. Absolutely true. If you want to play with your cards and your play group loves it, that's one of the coolest things about Commander. I fully understand and agree that Rule Zero breaks down in a lot of situations in what the RC calls untrusted games with strangers. But when you have your playgroup, your friends, you are the rules committee. And let no one tell you different. Thoughts on future bans? One Ring. One Ring keeps getting mentioned. I feel like that's YouTube brain. I don't think the One Ring's bad in Commander. I don't think it's even on the watch list in Commander. I think it's totally fine in Commander. Bowmasters. I think Bowmasters is brutal, and I mean brutal in CEDH. And I would keep an eye on it in CDH along with Rhystic Study. Like Bowmasters, we'll see. Man, that if they cared about CEDH, they'd care about Bowmasters, but they don't, right? So, but Bowmasters is definitely a hot button card in that format. Lotus Petal, what? Lotus Petal's fine. It's just the coin from Hearthstone. It's fine. It's totally fine. Can we talk about the hint about silver bordered card talks in the future? I don't have a lot to say about it. I don't like silver bordered cards. Just not for me. Definitely not my jam. The idea, it was interesting at the end of the announcement that they talked about trying to find basically better ways for us to have Rule Zero conversations, and some of that seems to involve silver border. I'm curious what that is. It's interesting to think that they might be putting a lot of work and research into figuring out how to help us talk to each other about Rule Zero. And there's some element of this could be tied into that if you want to get into like branches of how things tie together. Maybe there just was a whole other tier in there, like how to have a Rule Zero conversation that involved Dockside and Mana Crypt and things like this. And they were like, there's really just no place for this really in like any reasonable Rule Zero conversation outside of CEDH. We just got to ban it. I'm not saying that was the reason. Maybe it played a factor. When are you and Raren going to appear on Shuffle Up and play together? I don't know. I don't know. I hope we do. I really do. I'm gonna talk about something that's on a different topic very briefly. It's about me and it, and every time this comes up, I think about it. I can't control when I get invited on other people's shows. One of the big reasons I have my own show is because I can control that when I get invited to it and who I invite on it. And I'm grateful for that. It's one of the driving forces behind my Commander show, is that, like, all right, I was frustrated. I was sad. I didn't know why I didn't get to do some things other people got to do. And I was like, well, if I have my own show, I can kind of channel some of that negative energy into something positive. So that's what I do. Make Krark's other thumb legal. Depends what Krark is doing with that thumb, am I right? Thank you for the sub, Mad Scientist. Casing sentence. I lost over 2K with this. Gonna sell all my cards moving forward and exclusively proxy. This was discussed with WotC, and they waited until the reprints of Crypt and Lotus sold. You have every right to be frustrated. It sucks. And I know it feels a form of personal to you right now. It's not. I truly believe that they did this believing it will make the format better in the long term. And I truly believe they should have done it sooner, and I wish they had. So If you feel screwed over by the forces behind the game, I think you have a right to feel that way. I think you do. But I don't think they took that lightly. I know it feels like they did because all you see is an announcement, but I really don't feel they did. I'm confident they didn't. And I'm not trying to make any light of how you feel. Like, you can be pissed. I get it. I get it. As for your relationship with Magic moving forward, always your call. I can't be upset with you. I'm going to be really careful when it comes to buying cards that I think are busted until I get an idea of how they're handling their ban policy, especially like really expensive versions of those cards, really expensive printings. I'm going to be careful about that until I get an idea of how often they're going to ban. I'm going to be honest with you guys. In a year or two, I'm probably not going to be thinking about this and just spending stupid money on cards again. That's how it tends to go. Because at the end of the day, I love collecting Magic cards. It's not just about their resale value to me. It's very much something else. There's more to it to me than that. I'd be lying to you if I said I was gonna quit or long-term change my behavior based on this. I think it's gonna last for a little while. I think I'm gonna think twice about buying the extra pretty mana crypt, and then I think I'm gonna get right back to it, to be honest, because you know, it's not about how much money is in this binder to me. Like, it's bigger than that to me. It's something else. And I'm sure that a lot of you feel that way too. People aren't wrong for being upset for the financial gut punch they took. But the game is bigger than all of us. Maybe not absolutely all of us, but the individual us, it is bigger than us. And there's something really nice about it. There's something about it that brings me back again and again. There's something that made me want to collect these again. And I don't want to sell them. This whole binder could get banned. Feel weird. This would still be my binder. Your cards are still your cards. Are they worth less than they were at the start of the day today? Maybe. But maybe there's still a lot of memory and value there in other ways. And like I said, don't sell them low. Don't sell them out of spite. Don't tear them up. All right? You never know. Another format could come along. There was a time when people probably didn't think these Commander cards would be worth much. They didn't think Commander would be this popular. You never know what's going to happen. It's going to be all right. It's okay to suck today. In the long term, I think it'll be all right. You own a Mox Pearl? I used to. I sold it. Sold it for $90. I had to pay for a car, okay? I wanted to buy a car. It was my first car. I did what I had to do. It's all right. I'm back now. Can't watch live, EU, but I like your content, so why even have a Rule 0 if you're playing ban list whack-a-mole? Takes away freedom of creativity. Why have a Rule 0 if you're playing ban list whack-a-mole? It depends where you're playing and who you're playing with. Having an agreed upon set of rules is kind of what holds the game together anyway. If you're playing with your friends, like Rule 0 probably isn't important, as you've all kind of figured out what you're doing already, and you probably do it for social experience. When you're playing with people who aren't your friends, but you're hoping to derive joy from the game and maybe make friends, it's important to have kind of a standard to go by. And that's why Rule 0 has a place. But some cards, and I think they're right, I think Mana Crypt Dockside and Jeweled Lotus are so egregious to the kind of pushed power level injected into the format that's supposed to be casual and fun, that I do think they're kind of their own Rule Zero conversation. If you're playing these cards, the social like it's super spiky, it's competitive, and I think that not enough people are good at expressing that. They're just simply like, well, it's legal, I can play it. You have to remember, we're talking about Magic players. We're not known for our social prowess. Okay, I have had some interactions that blow people, like, that absolutely changed how I feel about Rule Zero. I used to be a full Rule Zero believer. Why can't we solve everything with Rule Zero? And then I had a game and I sat down. This was at a Command Fest, so people had not paid money, but paid tickets, which is a form of currency. You get it with like your admission that you buy, so it's kind of like a currency. They had paid tickets to be in this content creator pod. So I didn't feel like I could just get up and leave. And one of them was like, yep, I got this deck. It's like an 8. It's pretty strong, but you know, no infinite combos. Second person is like, yeah, this deck is probably a little bit under that. It might be like a 6 or a 7. Last person, this guy looks right at us and goes, my deck goes infinite and wins with infinite mana in 14 different ways. It's incredibly optimized down to the very last card. It can win as early as turn 2. I did not bring another deck. I'm going to play this deck. And that was our Rule Zero conversation. I swear to God, this is a true story. That was our Rule Zero. Should we take the dock sides and the mana crypts away from this guy? Yeah. Yes. Some people are that insane. Do you want to know the rest of that story? Do you want to know how that game ended? Dude, it's so cringe. I looked at the other two and I was like, I looked right at this guy and I said, okay, if you're not willing to borrow a deck. Guy's like, nope, want to play this deck. I said, okay, we are going to do everything we can possibly do to stop you. We are going to target you until you are dead. And we aren't going to stop till you're gone because we can't trust you with even one more turn. You understand? Yep. And I'm going to play this deck. Okay. Look at the other two. You guys in? They're like, yep. And the tone is like, they were like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. We get to play together. Now these two are like soldiers. Soldiers with a plan going to war, man. Dude, the vibe was off the charts. By about, let's say by about turn 3 or 4, we realized something. This dude's deck wasn't very good. It was actually really bad. He tried to go infinite once with some kind of a blood artist type combo. I interacted with it with an onboard trick that what I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was an onboard piece and I broke it up and the dude just proceeded to die. The deck was so bad. And so he loses and he just gets up and leaves. He wasn't salty or anything. He's like, okay, gets up and leaves. The other dude next to me just looks at me. He's like, dude's got to learn how to talk about his deck better. I'm like, I know. We actually felt bad. We actually felt bad because by like turn 4 or something, we had beaten him down to like 15 health, and it was dawning on us. His lands were like, it was just dawning on us that he had a bunch of bad cards in his deck. And yes, his deck was capable of winning on turn 2. And yes, it had 15 different potential ways to go infinite. But his turn 0 put the fear of God into us. But his deck wasn't any good. It's so bad. Yeah, it's like somebody who only ever goldfishes. Ever. And then again, to talk about your deck like that, like like that is what you tell people the moment you sit down. It's like, okay. It was one of the weirdest games I've ever had in my life. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. But it was like, we had this moment where he's at 7 health, right? He just tried to go infinite. I stopped him. The other 3 of us have kind of figured it out. It's like, okay, this isn't like CEDH. This is a pretty poorly built deck. And it was like, do we kill him? Well, his deck goes infinite 15 different ways. We can't just let him untap, right? We can't. We all felt bad about it, but we did it. We killed him. Anyway, that's a whole other subject. To everybody who came here to talk about bans, thank you. Yeah, he did. Yep, Kyle, he said turn 2. He said it. Oh my God. I'm trying to remember what the card was, but it was an onboard trick. I had something I could just like tap to do a thing on board that broke up his combo. So sad. Did Jeweled Lotus or Mana Crypt help this man win? I think they would have. I think that this is the type of person who, like, that's where the turn 2 comes from, right? I just woke up. Are they crazy? Now many of my expensive cards are worthless. Oh, you just found out. Maybe that's why Twitch and YouTube are still hopping at this hour. Yeah, it's a ban announcement. They're not worthless. The real dollars are the friends we made along the way. Like I've been saying, keep them. You never know when another format might rise to prominence that could involve these cards in some way. But yeah, sounds like they're banned in Commander. If you're playing outside your usual play group and you can't rule 0 them in, probably got to change the deck. Didn't expect me to still be streaming? Yeah, me either. I made Commander content all day knowing that these bans happened, and then I wanted to get home and talk about them. Talk with you guys, hear from you guys. It's been actually kind of therapeutic, if I'm being honest. It's been nice. It's been actually nice hearing from you guys. Magic is not an investigation. Excuse me? We have a whole set built around clues and detectives, my friend. I refuse to accept your premise in view of the world. Oh. All right, guys. Tonight, we work on acceptance, but we don't accept yet. It's okay to be mad. In the upcoming days, as acceptance creeps in, what card are you going to use to replace your Mana Crypt? Or your Jeweled Lotus or your Dockside? What card goes in the deck? Well, you have a new spot in your 99, guys. Is that exciting? What goes in? What's the first card you put in? Soul Ring. Somehow I doubt that. Somehow I doubt that. I don't believe you. Let me put it that way. Island. It's good stuff. Llanowar Elves. Doing it. Look at you, Chrome Box. Don't go buy one, please. Jeweled Amulet. Ooh, that's a deep cut. That's a deep cut. Mana Vault. Sure. Divining Top? You're a sociopath. Dark Ritual. The Sticker Goblin? No, not like that. Not like this. City of Traders? No. Yep. Nothing comes close. Mesa Falcon? Oh my god. Great minds think alike. Well done, guys. Proud of you guys. Strike It Rich is the new Dockside. Kurt Ape. Beautiful. So what I'm getting here, you guys get 1 to 3 spots in your deck to do whatever you want. You're just gonna find the next fastest mana you can find. That's what I'm getting from this. And you wonder why most people just move on. But you can always say you were there. You can always say you were there the day that Mana Crypt, Dockside, the day the turbo era of EDH died. Pretty wild. Thank you for watching the stream. As always, I'll see you in the next stream. It's a silly game we play, isn't it? If it hurts, I get it. You're not wrong. I hope it makes a better format in the long run. I think it will. I think that's the intention here. I'm sorry it hurts. But I hope we get to play a fun game of Magic down the road. Thanks for joining. You're cool.